Hey everybody, it's Don Collins from Anion Sports. I'm back, better than ever. Got a lot of topics on deck, so here we go, getting right into it. In the NFL, Tony Romo has been officially granted his release from the Dallas Cowboys per his retirement. All season, Dak or Tony, who you got? I was personally a fan of keeping Tony Romo in there. I don't think you should lose your job due to injury, but it's a here nor there. They were extremely successful with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott this season. But now it's not even a question to debate anymore. So they cut ties. Tony Romo leaves as, the all-time franchise leader in passing yards and passing touchdowns. And he's not even leaving to go to another team, as many speculated. He's actually leaving to go to CBS as an analyst. Now, how long that'll last? I don't know. I mean, Tony Romo, a right team comes calling, injuries happen, Denver could come calling, Houston come calling. The right situation pops up, he more than well could come back. But for right now, he's retired, free to go analyze games without having to risk further injury. So kudos to Tony Romo for doing what he wants to do. Dallas already has their franchise quarterback now in place, so they can easily move on, save some cap, end up making a run to fix that defense because they lost both corners, Morris Claiborne and Brandon Carr, and have yet to replace them. To the association, the Cleveland Cavaliers, earlier in a previous episode, I praised them for the moves that they made, adding to their offensive firepower. Something I didn't foresee, or maybe I just didn't pay attention to. Their defense is garbage. All right, that's putting it nicely, to be honest. They're in the bottom third of the NBA in defensive efficiency, and that's not a place where you want to be if you're trying to make a run at another championship. Many have been talking about, can they flip the proverbial switch and become a good defensive team? I mean, when you have LeBron James, who is their best defensive player when giving the proper effort, anything's possible. But Kyrie Irving's not about to go guard the best player on the other team. Kevin Love isn't about to go guard the best person on the other team. Shumpert, I don't know where you've been at. The energy on defense, it's not there. JR, I'm not counting on him to be my number one stopper. Tristan Thompson isn't a renowned shot blocker. So when you consider all those things, what are they flipping the switch to? Average defense? Average? And at this rate, the Eastern Conference isn't a joke. You got to go through Washington, you got to go through Boston, potentially Atlanta, add into that in the first round, maybe, well, not the first round, but it's not a cakewalk. It's not a cream puff schedule how it used to be. There are going to be some tough games in there. And to get to the NBA Finals, this defense cannot stop a Golden State. You look what they did against the Spurs, and they put up awful performance against San Antonio. And then San Antonio turns around and gets trounced by Golden State. So you think about it, the Cavaliers, I'd be very concerned about this defense. You don't just always flip the switch. Sometimes you are who you are, especially when you're in the efficiency rankings with the Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers defend on par with the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's a joke, and that's a problem. And they have to address that. And I don't know if they can in time to possibly win another championship. As usual, you can't talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers without talking about their likely opponent in the NBA Finals should Cleveland make there, and that's the Golden State Warriors. After struggling initially once they lost Kevin Durant, they have flipped the switch and turned it on, really. I mean, they're riding an 11-game win streak. During this streak, they've scored on average 115 points per 100 possessions and have given up 97 points per 100 possessions. And just getting back to Warriors basketball. You lose Kevin Durant, the initial shock of losing him, I was actually concerned that, they weren't going to be able to make up the slack. They hadn't looked like it. They dropped a couple games. They lost to the Bulls. The Bulls, on TNT, though. The TNT Bulls are for real, but they still lost nonetheless. But really, the catalyst for all this is Steph is being Steph. Now, granted, on the season, he's averaging 25 points, 4.5 boards, 6.5 assists, which is a remarkable season, for anybody. But he's really stepped it up here. In the past week, he's averaging 31 points per game. He dropped 42 just on Sunday. So he's really kind of getting back in his flow. And, Clay is following suit. Draymond's putting up a triple-double. So, this past week, definitely, they're getting back to being the Warriors. And then when you talk about adding Kevin Durant in time for the playoffs, That's scary. All right, that's scary. I really do think they're going back to the finals. Who they face is more than likely going to be Cleveland, but there's some doubt, some uncertainty on their end. But Golden State definitely would be my pick to go back for a third straight time and look for them to really be the favorite this time. If they weren't before, they are now. Staying in the association, some news out of New York. Point guard Derrick Rose has torn his meniscus. I'm a Derrick Rose fan. I'm a Bulls fan. So everything he contributed to the team was definitely something. He put excitement in Chicago Bulls basketball. But it comes a point where we can no longer live in the past. Mr. Rose was seeking a max deal potentially this offseason. Yeah, that's not going to happen. No, I'm not giving somebody a max contract after their fourth knee surgery in as many seasons. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. Derek, as a fan, I really hate to see this for you. But if I was running a front office, I don't think you're going to get that max deal, bud. I don't think you are. And it's really sad because I'm still a Derrick Rose fan. Like, this man, what he did for Chicago Bulls basketball never will be replaced in my personal life. You know, that was really what, you know, the Derrick Rose era was one of, you know, the reasons why I became an avid basketball fan. But I hate to say it, at 28, he might have to contemplate retirement. This is rough. But if he plays, yeah, wherever he goes, best believe I'll be keeping note. But yeah, I think the Knicks, I think it's time to cut loose with him. He's a free agent, and I just don't see how they sign him to any. He doesn't fit with the team. You got Carmelo, Porzingis. You know, three guys can't hold one basketball. I don't think he fits, and I think he needs to move on and maybe get an incentive-laden deal because these knees, man, they're rough. But best of luck to you, Derek. As always, Chicago loves you. Yeah, we still love you, man, but these knees, man, these knees. Really basketball-heavy show today. Sticking in hoops, but moving to the amateur ranks. North Carolina captured their sixth national championship yesterday. And, you know, they held off Gonzaga 71-65 in a game that was, excitement-wise, I don't think I was necessarily the most entertained I could have been. But nonetheless, you know what? Got to give it hats off to North Carolina. It was about redemption. After losing on a Chris Jenkins buzzer beater last season, to come back, go through the grind of the season, go all the way back to the national championship game, and capture what you sought so bad. I just got to give them respect. You know, this isn't a place for me to discuss my horrendous bracket. You know, I don't know what went wrong this year, but we're not going to talk about that. But I really want to give credit where credit is due. You know, Roy Williams is a hell of a coach. They go back, they get the job done, you know, in an utterly boring game to me. But nonetheless, a win is a win. I can't take that from them. They did good. They did real good. So, you know, congratulations, UNC. And I guess as a Kansas fan, we got to get ready for next season. On the women's side, for the first time in 5 years, the championship was not won by UConn. As you know, UConn was upset by the Mississippi State Bulldogs on a excellent shot from Morgan Williams. But more on her later. South Carolina beat Mississippi State 67-55 in the championship game. South Carolina head coach Dawn Staley became the second African-American head coach to win a women's title, first since 1999. This marked the third time this season that the Gamecocks had overcome the Bulldogs in a game. So clearly they had their number. But, you know, in a rather curious move, the aforementioned William, she sat the entire fourth quarter in a coach's decision. It wasn't due to injury. It wasn't due to necessarily poor play. The coach cited, Vic Schaefer, he cited energy as a reason for her benching. Morgan, you handled it probably better than anybody could have. She deflected it, saying it was a coach's decision. You know, whatever coach says, that's what I'm about. And that, to me, that's a great sign of an athlete, just really humbling yourself. You know, fatigue might have been a factor. She had played excellent in the previous two games against number one seeds. So, you know, maybe she deserved a break. You know, you're supposed to bring it. And she said that. That's not an excuse. I got to bring it regardless. But coach felt like, you know, somebody else that night had an opportunity, and it just didn't work out. And he's been mixing and matching the lineup, and it didn't work to that point. So You know what? It's a coach's decision. I'm not going to make a bigger deal about it. Both teams, hell of a season. South Carolina, you know what? They earned that championship. They earned that one. And Mississippi State, sometimes you just get beat. And there's nothing wrong with that. But definitely, congratulations to both those teams. Morgan Williams, don't hang your head. You gave the tournament a lot of juice. I'm telling you. You had me like, oh man, this girl, she could ball. She doing this to UConn. So definitely a nice story there. And finally, I'm gonna switch the gears a little bit. I'm gonna talk about America's pastime. Baseball is back. It is back. I'm gonna say it again. Baseball is back. On Sunday, there were 3 games on opening day, however you want to talk about it. I think it should be only 1 game opening night, or have everybody play on Monday and have that just be opening day. But you know what? Money to be made. Not going to complain about that. The Rays beat the Yankees 7-3. Chris Archer pitched pretty nice. Evan Longoria, the franchise all-time leader in a number of categories, had a home run. Got him on my fantasy team. Can't complain. The second game, the Diamondbacks came back on the Giants and ended up beating them. But Madison Bumgarner, you off the hook, man. You are completely off the hook. He took a perfect game into the 6th inning. He hit 2 home runs, and he became the first pitcher in MLB history to hit 2 home runs on opening day. So, what else you got to do to win a game? The bullpen imploded again, and that's been a problem for them going back to last season, the last postseason. So they have to get that figured out. But Bumgarner, you are not the issue, my man. You are not the issue. The defending champion Chicago Cubs, I say that with a lot of pride. They opened up in St. Louis where they lost 4-3 on a walk-off single by Randall Grichuk. It was a rough game. I watched Carlos Martinez pitch masterfully. He struck out 10 and 7 in the 3rd innings. The Cubs looked baffled by him. And honestly, I didn't think that, it was going to even be as close of a game as it was. It was 3-0. We got a couple breaks, error by Matt Carpenter, and, Wilson Contreras ties the game up 3-3, and then they obviously lose. But that's a game that realistically should have been over with even, before Contreras' home run. Carpenter makes that error, gives the Cubs another chance. Really, though, it's the first game of 162. Both teams are far from where they're going to be in, 6 months. Both teams hopefully will be better competing in the playoffs because best rivalry, might as well get a playoff series out of it. But definitely real excitement for the MLB season to be back. It's my favorite sport. Probably hear me one too many times if you're not a fan of baseball. But nonetheless, for the summertime, baseball's back. And that's all I got for y'all today. So #be great. The only place to go is up. At Anion Sports, you know how we coming. We got all the sports covered going forward. There's hockey, there's baseball, there's some basketball, no football, but the off season is always lit. So it's go time. #be great.